and you're going to feel like you're standing on the edge of a cliff, and the only choice you have is to step off in God's hands.
I will let you preach on hell when you stop being glad that some people are going there.
Somebody comes up to me verbatim, I couldn't worship today because you changed the font.
Manipulated, that's a fun word.
If you want to prove to yourself that God exists, then be obedient.
The congregation is not your therapist.
I don't think we're desperate for heaven. We sing about it,
Right.
we talk about it, but most folks are perfectly fine waking up and staying here tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Chris McNeil, and this is Ministry on the Move, a podcast interviewing pastors and ministers across the USA. As the father of the McNeils, I get to travel across the country singing the gospel, and one day it occurred to me that you all need to know each other. You are a part of the extended McNeil family and the body of Christ. Join me on a journey to churches of all shapes and sizes, different parts of the country, and see just what it takes to shepherd the body of Christ. For more information on the McNeils, you can visit us at mcneilmusic.tv or mcneilmusic.com. Thanks for joining us, and here's the episode. Hey there, and thanks so much for joining us on part 2 with Steve McAbee. If you missed part 1, you might go back and start there. We talked about the problem of pain, what it means to be present with people who are suffering, and how American Christianity has gotten comfortable. In part 2, we dig into something harder. How do you love someone whose life you don't approve of? How do you avoid being judgmental when you're supposed to make judgments about what's right and wrong? Steve's got a story. He went to India and preached a crusade where 1,000 people came forward to get saved. Then he told them all to go home unless they were willing to forsake every other god. 250 stayed. He watched what real cost of faith looks like when Christians are literally being persecuted. When a pastor leaves a good job to follow Jesus and the community throws bombs through his window. And we talk about what that does to your faith when you're living in comfort and safety back home. I'm Chris McNeil. Follow us on Facebook and share this with someone in ministry. Here's part 2. So I carry around in my brain this notion that I think I understand the Bible well enough. I'm not saying I couldn't improve. You can. It's a lifelong study, but that like I love it that my children come to me with questions about the Bible. They're reading through something. And they're like, "Hey, Dad, what is it? What on earth is he trying to say here? Or what, did he really say that?" And we have wonderful conversations. And I don't even necessarily have to go look it up because, I've been actually reminiscing over the last few months about how blessed I was as a young person to have been just submersed in the Scripture. I just my entire life has been that way, and I really didn't realize how fortunate I've been. And so when I see something that seems out of sorts to me, when I see something that doesn't quite reach the threshold of the way that we, Francis Schaeffer wrote the book, How Should We Then Live? I'm in Walmart and I go, that's not quite meeting the standard here, folks. It dawns on me that how quickly I can become judgmental of this. How quickly I can say that lifestyle doesn't cut it. That's wrong. And I need for my children to know this. And so I might make a scene, or maybe I just tell them about it when we get in the car. That doesn't seem very Christ-like of me. They know. How do you be maybe this is in the world but not of it. And I don't mean participate. That's not what I mean. I mean show the love of Christ. In John 8, there's that scene where the Pharisees bring the woman caught in the act of adultery. Always cracks me up that they forgot to bring the guy.
Right,
Because that's
right.
what the book of Leviticus tells them to do. You have to bring both of them, right?
Right.
And so he's just stooping there, drawing in the sand, and it doesn't really tell us what, he's drawing in the sand. And he says, "You who are without sin, cast the first stone." And it says that they went away, the oldest to the youngest. Mm-hmm. And I never understand. I mean, I'm only because I'm starting to get old, am I starting to understand what was really going on there. And it's still sometimes difficult for me. So how do you be present in those situations? How do you not give your stamp of approval to this, whatever the thing is? It doesn't really matter. That's not important. How do you not approve of it, but love the person unconditionally who's kind of living that life? And I mean, it could be anything. It could be somebody strung out on drugs. It could be somebody's cross-dressing. It could be there's just a myriad of things that we could tease out, and you pick.
Right.
Where do you
Where do you go with that? And
yeah.
what do you do with
I mean,
that?
somebody shows up in your church, right?
Right.
Here's the authentic me.
Here's the authentic me. You told me to be authentic.
Yeah, I'm showing up.
I mean, I think you love them where they're at. I mean, Jesus was the master at loving people with where they were, and then not keeping them where they were. He met them where they were. Go and sin no more.
Yep.
He didn't condone it. He didn't put a stamp of approval on it, but he was present. And he was real and authentic in that moment. But then he said, okay, now here's the standard, go and sin no more.
Yeah.
And I think as a church, we have to meet people where they're at, but we don't have to leave people where they're at.
Mike Freeman, a friend of mine, has said it, and I probably quoted it on this podcast more than I should. Come as you are, don't leave as you came. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good saying. So I think we work at meeting people where they are, identifying with where they're at, understanding where they're at, not dismissing it, not beating the Bible over their head, so to speak, not shaming them, not judging them, because there's a difference, Chris, and I tell people all the time, there's a difference in making a judgment about what's right and wrong and being judgmental about what's right and wrong. We can make a judgment about what's right.
Yep.
And we can make a judgment about what's wrong. Mm-hmm. But we don't have to be judgmental about the person that's doing the right or wrong. Yep. And that's the difference in a lot of what we see in the Christian church today. And so trying to apply Paul's words, speak the truth in love, trying to apply the reality that Christ was very active in the Gospels at making judgments about what people were doing. But he wasn't judgmental in dealing with the tax collectors. He wasn't judgmental in dealing with the woman caught in sin. He wasn't judgmental in dealing with Zacchaeus. He was he was bringing them through that and into something else. And that's the challenge for us in the present world in which we live.
Yeah. And I think that you're probably one of maybe two handfuls of guys that I've talked to that have maybe a different perspective on this than most Americans, because you've spent time overseas. And I've got to think that really, it always cracks me up to think about talking to a missionary, because so much of the time, the story goes that you went over there to fix them, and wound up getting yourself changed a lot of the time. But I'm kind of interested. I want to hear you talk about India some more. And I'm very curious because they've got, maybe it's hyperbole, but is it 3 million or 33 million gods, deities that they've got?
Probably had a new one this morning.
Yeah. in Hinduism. And I'm curious if you can kind of talk about how sharing the gospel works over there. Is it one of those 10-year treks that we talked about earlier, or maybe because they are religious, it's much easier. Maybe this becomes the Mars Hill to the unknown God conversation very quickly because they're interested in that thing. Maybe can you? I'm very interested in India all of a sudden.
My experience there was limited, brief, but extended too because I've kept relationships going. I haven't been back in a while, but we have an orphanage over there that we help support. And my pastor friend had a heart attack and passed away 2 years ago, but his brother is actually running the orphanage now, and so we're sending support to him and through him, so to speak. But my experience there was one of a couple of different directions. One, people were open to having gospel conversations. It was right before I was over there, right before the regime change, when the new leader just kind of he just clawed down on Christianity. And
really? Huh.
Yeah, and he pushed a lot of Christian people out, a lot of Christian entities out. So he made it very, very difficult for Christians to be present there, and Christian orgs and NGOs to be present there. So when I was there, it was under a different regime, a different leader, and some of that was rising, but it hadn't, the new leader hadn't taken over and hadn't put a stop to it. So when we were there, we were able to have a crusade and announce it through the means of radio and TV and those things. And I don't know if you've seen the picture of me preaching over there, but
No.
I'll show it to you before you leave. But I was standing there on the stage. It was a platform 10 feet in the air, and as far as I could see, I had eyes looking back at me. As far as I could see. Thousands of people showed up. TV showed up. It was televised. And I preached from 6 in the morning till 6 at night till 2 in the morning. And they waited till in the evening because of the heat, right? And so 6 o'clock, people started coming in, and we literally had church from 6 to 2, and I preached like 4 different times from 6 to 2.
Wow.
I preached. They said, "Come on, preach another sermon." I sing some more. "Come on, preach another sermon." 3 or 4 times that evening I preached. And so I basically preached the Mars Hill sermon. Oddly that you say that, because I actually took that text and I pointed the fact that you have thousands of gods, and Paul, this ancient missionary, was in a similar culture, similar situation, and this is what he had to say. And so I kind of preached that whole sermon, but I preached it 4 different times. And the third time they gave an altar call, and we had 1,000 people show up to be saved. And then they invited me back, and I told them, I said, if you're not willing to forsake your other gods that you bring with you,
stay there.
Then leave. Go home. Go back. And by the time I got through that last part of that sermon, we had about 250, 300 people that were still there. Everybody else had kind of walked off because I drilled down on the fact that if you're coming today holding on to the gods that you served this morning, if you're not going to forsake all of those and hold on only to Christ, then you're not ready to receive what the gospel that I'm sharing, the Christ that I'm talking to you about, because Christ is not one among many; He's one and only.
Right.
What
would cause a Hindu person to do that?
It's a good question. I mean, other than the gospel and Christ
the
and the Holy
power-
Spirit,
yeah,
the power of the Holy Spirit.
right.
I don't know, because their mindset is just
one more.
just one more, just one more, just one
Yeah.
more. And I don't know if it's I don't know what motivates that mindset. If it's just put it all on the table, and maybe one was right and I'll get in, or if it's just really this whole animistic idea that everything is God, so to speak. That
Pantheism, panentheism.
yeah, right. That's kind of out there. So I don't know enough to kind of talk about that, but I do know that the gospel was readily received.
Yeah.
They were ready. They were ready to hear what you had to say.
Okay.
And they were receptive. But I think they were really quick to add the one among many, and so the distinction became very clear. Hey, I don't want them to just add this among their cafeteria style
Right.
of religion. We want to just kind of single this one out, and all others are gone.
That is the story, basically the story of Polycarp. The early church fathers. I mean, in the patristics, they had, you'd have to go light incense and say, Caesar is God, right? And take your part. Then you got your little stamp of approval, and then that way they knew you were a good Roman citizen, and you could go on being a Christian. It was when the Christians wouldn't do that. Right, that they got called into court, drug into court, and that was the. So Polycarp, as I remember the story, was old. He was 420 years, so like 89 or something, and they were saying, oh, "Look, hey, the judge is like, he's going to die in 2 years. Why do we want to make this guy confess?" He says, "Look, old man, just say away with the atheists," which is weird because what they meant by that, they called Christians atheists because they didn't believe in multiple gods. They didn't believe everything was a god, just like the Hindu. And so as the story that I've heard told, Polycarp looks at the people in the jury, the Roman citizens, and he says, "Away with the atheists," rightly pointing them out as the ones who didn't believe in the God. And it's just this one-to-many, I heard a sermon once from a pastor that I worked with, and then he said there is a bigger difference from 1 to 2 than 2 to any other number. What we're really talking about here is monotheism. And if you only have, if you have one wife, great. But if you have 2, it doesn't matter if you have 3 or 1,000.
Right.
Right? And the same holds true with God and the lowercase g gods. And I don't know, it seems to me very difficult for me to get my head wrapped around what someone with so many gods would see as appealing in Christianity, and it's total ignorance on my part. I have no idea because it's such a different culture from mine, and I don't even have a frame of reference for it. Did it change your faith in any way? What did it do to you?
It encouraged me in a lot of, and I guess in a lot of way, I went home just excited and ecstatic that we had such a harvest, and the invitation was just calling back,
Right.
And then the regime change happened, and basically because I had gone under my passport, my visa was denied. I applied so I only had a one-time visa. I should have got a 10-year visa. If I'd done that, I would have been in. But because I'd only got a one-time visa, when I reapplied to go back, the report came back. You're a Christian. You can't come to our country. Wow. Because you're going to proselytize us.
Right.
Yeah. And so they denied my visa. I applied twice, about a year apart from each other, and both times they denied my visa, so I wasn't able to go back in the country. But did it change me in any way? I think it did, because my eyes were opened, I think, to how how sad so many people live. Because I saw a real sadness in people clinging to everything and not having any hope.
Just for clarity's sake, are you referring to, is it a physical condition or a spiritual condition?
I think it would be a spiritual condition, right? So they were clinging to everything that they could find, but in real reality, they were still searching for hope. They didn't have it.
So do they believe in the reality of their gods, or are these metaphors for them?
I believe they maybe both and there was a real concrete, that monkey's God, leave him alone. There's a real belief in that.
I mean, that's why they don't slaughter cattle, right?
Right.
Because it's Uncle Fred. Yeah.
Yeah. A cow walks down the road, you don't mess with him.
Right.
Right.
So is it don't mess with him or don't kill him?
Both.
Really? So leave him be.
Leave him be.
And do they feel that
Feed him, take care of him, leave him be, but he has the right of way. I mean, like we would say in America, if you're driving down a road and someone steps out on the road, the pedestrian has the right of way.
Right.
Over there, the cattle,
Animals do.
animals have the right of way. Yeah. They'll run over a human in a heartbeat. Parenthetically.
Interesting.
but not the animals.
And
maybe literally, Chris, because I don't know if I told you this, but we were on a high-speed chase in the desert. I was visiting a village and preached at the village, and I was on my way to the evening crusade, and they had the road blocked, and then my driver went around, and then they did a high-speed chase in the desert, and they were shouting all kinds of explicitives, and I can only imagine what they were saying. And the pastor that was driving, my friend Jeremy, was like, "We are not stopping. They will kill you."
really?
He said they're that mad. They're hostile.
What was the offense?
I was preaching the gospel, trying to proselytize from Hinduism.
Okay. And what is okay? Yeah. So are they? So then they're convinced. Obviously, they're convinced that their way is the right way.
I would think they're very convinced of that.
Yeah. It really dawns on me that it's the Christians that we're sort of like, well, I think this is right, but there's so many different choices over here. You could be a Catholic or a Presbyterian or whatever, and we've all sort of got different angles, and so I'm not really sure how much weight to put on that point, but I'm really hopeful. These people are like, yeah, I'll die for it because I know I'm stepping into eternity, or maybe I'll come back as a cockroach, or I'll go off into nirvana. Yeah, right. If I've done it right, and they're absolutely convinced, right? Far more, I think, than we in America are.
They were convinced, but they were all still. I think they were also as a people or culture. They were still searching. There was still an element of they had found so many, but I think in their heart, you might say,
Yeah,
that's how we would say it. Internally, they knew there was an unsatisfied, unfulfilled longing for something that was that they were missing. If that's fair to say.
do we mean different things by the word God? Us and them?
Do we? Maybe. I don't know.
So in Christianity, let's start with Hinduism. So, I mean, you said a rock is a god, right? They've got 3 million of them or 33 million of them. I was told, I think in college, that it was actually kind of hyperbolic, that what it's trying to indicate is that everything is, right? There's nothing that's not God. It's panentheism. and so it's like Syndrome said in the Incredibles movie, if everyone's special, then no one is. Yeah. But in Christianity, we have God the Father, and nothing is like him. Everything emanates from him. Everything starts and ends with him. He is the prime mover. He is the eternal. He past, present, and future. He is absolutely other.
Right.
C.S. Lewis said the nimbus. Nimbus, I think, is the word that he used. The that which we cannot comprehend, and that just seems, so very different to me that it almost seems like a chasm to cross to understand what they mean by God compared to what we mean. Is that?
Yeah, I think yes, I see. I think in their minds, though, they are when they think God, they're like, I don't know, they pay homage. They're bowing down. They are submitting to them. So in some there's probably some crossover in terms of how we would respond to our deity,
Right.
Our idea of God versus what they would do. There's some crossover there, but there are probably some distinctions too in terms of how they relate or perceive or obviously understand.
And I don't know. Do they attribute miracles to cows, or is it?
I don't know.
Or do the miracles come from Shiva the Destroyer, or one of these? Because they have major and minor ones, don't they?
They do.
Yeah, and so I wonder. See, that's just another gradation thing. It's something I don't understand. Unless, of course, I put it in the in the biblical framework where it says that they were, Jesus or God says in Exodus 20, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." It's not because there weren't any. It's precisely because there were that idolatry could take place, and so there is something in the spiritual realm sitting behind every one of those. I don't know, 3 million instances that they're worshiping that could actually, I don't know, communicate, do something for you, respond to a prayer or whatever.
Yeah, I know they go in and pray.
Yeah, right.
So they're expecting some level of interaction because they're paying some kind of respect to that entity.
Just hit me what I'm trying to get across. I talked last episode on this podcast. A guy was a missionary for 2 years in Japan. So where Taoism is a thing. And he said that it was very cultural. It wasn't that the young people believed it. The old people did, but the young people really didn't. So I think that's what I'm trying to get to. Is it still very much a religion, or is it a cultural thing that they're sort of still attached to in your mind?
I would think there's probably some of both. There's cultural Hinduism, and then there's probably particular Hinduism.
Yep.
And just much like I would say in America, there's cultural Christianity.
Oh, sure.
And there's like particular Christianity.
100%.
So we're not a lot different here in America in terms of that nuance. That attitude and those things translate and correlate pretty
easily,
pretty consistently with the way that we interact with Christianity in America. It's broadly accepted.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching the girls play basketball today. I'm a big Texas fan, and they're now in the Elite Eight.
Hook 'em horns?
Yep, hook 'em horns. And the commercial was one of these shows, music shows, like, I don't know, American Idol or The Voice or something, but the person said, well, God gave you a lot of talent. So culturally
Right.
they're acknowledging God,
Yep.
but I wonder sometimes, do they really know what they're talking about?
Right.
You know,
Sure.
You know, so culturally we hear that and that's accepted, but there's a real difference in the cultural acceptance and then just really drilling down on a personal level of our identification with Christ.
What would you say the guess? What are the percentages there? So if you go over there, is that just sort of the way of life, and everybody goes to temple on Christmas and Easter, or whatever the holidays are? I'm sure they're not Christmas and Easter, or and is it 80%, 20%?
Yeah,
Or
I don't know.
any idea?
I don't have any idea.
Yeah.
My perception was predominantly Hindu.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Yeah.
everybody was Hindu. That was my perception. But then when I drilled down, the churches were kind of scattered. For the population base, they're relatively small, but there were many of them. Like we traveled a lot. I don't know. The pastor didn't say if it was just strictly because of the heat, or if it was because of persecution. But we traveled a lot in the evening.
Yep.
And into the 2 and 3 o'clock hour at night.
Yeah.
Or early in the morning.
Right.
And so from like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon until like 3 o'clock in the morning, we were out mostly, preaching and teaching and going from church to church. And so I because he only had me a few days, so we were catching just a few hours sleep and then back on the
Doing
road
it again.
and doing it again. Yeah. So my perception was there was a lot of, predominantly cultural, whatever you want to say. There was a lot of Hindus. But then when he started showing me all these little small churches that were everywhere, you realized, there's a grassroots movement in Christianity that's here. The one story I'll share real quick, but one of the pastors that was there had been a government official, and he left a good paying government job, and was saved. Found Christ only, was truly a believer.
Yeah.
Renounced Hinduism, became a pastor of a small local church, and in his community, and the community at large shunned him.
Sure. Right.
Wouldn't sell to him. Wouldn't trade to him. Wouldn't provide for him.
It cost him.
They disconnected community from him, and then so much where he was growing his own goods. He was farming, but they were throwing these bombs. They were lighting these bombs and throwing them through his window and throwing them into his garden and trying to burn his crops and burn his house down. And that was the price he was paying for being a Christian 2 years or less old, and trying to be a pastor and trying to lead people to Christ. He'd left a good-paying job. When I was saying good-paying job, I'm talking, instead of making $2 a day, he was making $20 a day.
Wow.
Order
of magnitude.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he left all of that to make nothing, and then the people weren't accepting of it either, and shunned him and persecuted him, and there was a high price tag for his faith.
Yeah. That it puts me in my place. Christianity that costs you something. It doesn't seem like it does over here as much. So I'm gonna grab the wheel and yank hard to the right. We're gonna land this plane because, as it turns out, this thing went overnight, and we're doing a second part in the morning, and we've got a service to do here in a little while.
We do?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, I do.
You do. Yeah.
You're gonna preach though, actually.
A little bit, yeah.
And this is Palm Sunday, right?
It is
so,
Palm Sunday.
Is that what you're going to talk about this morning?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about Jesus' the triumphal entry. Absolutely.
Yeah, the day that they all loved him.
The day they all loved him. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
The one day.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about Jesus as sovereign, and he rules, but he also overrules. He sent the two disciples in to go get the donkey. He had everything set up. It seems spontaneous when you first read it, but it really is orchestrated.
Yeah, I don't think there's much of anything in that time that was not divinely orchestrated.
Correct.
One of the things that I've learned over the past few years is that right before this moment, basically the last thing that he did before coming into Jerusalem was to go to, he was on the Mount of Transfiguration, right? And basically revealed himself to the supernatural world and said, you thought you knew who I was,
Right.
who I am, now come get me. And they did. I mean, it was shots fired.
Right. What I found this morning, I was looking over my notes and thoughts and things this morning, Chris, and something really stood out at me, and that is this: there's something the scholars talk about being the messianic secret in the Gospels, where Christ said, he did something. He said, "Don't tell anybody."
Yeah.
But when he comes into the Jerusalem, all gloves are off.
Yep.
The secret's out.
That's exactly
He's
right.
bidding people to identify him as king, and then that's there's a major pivot in that passage in Matthew 21, and it's all about Jesus as king.
Yep. And it really does become this triumphant. I don't know if that's the right word or not, because of what they're about to do to him. But pivotal, such a pivotal moment. Lots of theological bunny trails we could go down. We're very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm too. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to you guys being here this morning.
Yeah, we're glad to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you
always a pleasure. You're always welcome.
having us back.
Absolutely.
All right, we're gonna do the speed round, and I may actually make it a speed round this morning because we've got a sound check and then get dressed and turn our attention toward the service. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Coffee or tea?
A coffee.
Early morning or late night?
Early morning.
Hymns or modern worship?
That's a good question. Probably lean toward modern worship, but I appreciate the hymns. I'm Gen Xer, and so I feel like I'm stepped on both sides.
Yeah,
because
I'm
I can
with you.
appreciate the hymns, but I have a love for the choruses, and so people the generation older than we are, they are hymn only, so to speak,
right.
and the ones a little younger than we are, they're chorus only. But that Gen X is a bridge between both generations, and I have an appreciation for both.
I
Honestly.
am right there with you, and you couldn't have said it better. We're fixing to do our 9th album this year. In fact, just this last week, we landed on I think 14 or 15 songs. We're doing a hymns album. And so
cool.
the entire, for the first time, the whole thing is hymns. And then we're going to do one behind that's contemporary. And then one behind that's classic contemporary, the stuff that, from the music wars in the late 90s that...
Imagine.
Yeah, before Chris Tomlin was sainted.
Right. Before he was sainted.
Yeah. Paper Bible or digital?
Paper Bible.
Where's beach, mountain, or lake?
Ooh. Beach, mountain, or lake? That's a tough one. I'll have to think about that. Mainly because I think in my younger years I would have said beach without hesitation. But my daughter has moved to Denver, and her husband, and now my granddaughter lives there. And so we've had, in the last 7 years, we've gone to the mountains a lot, and I've really learned to appreciate the mountain.
See, I'm mountains and Michelle's the beach, and I was telling her just this last week that we've got to figure out a place where we can find mountains that are on a beach.
Mountains on the beach.
It's going to be difficult. What's the last song you had on repeat?
The last song I had on repeat? Probably Josh Baldwin's new song called Tabernacle. Yeah, it's brand new. It came out a couple weeks ago.
All right.
And I've just been listening to it over and over and again.
So as a Gen Xer, where do you go to find new music that you...
I'm a Spotify person.
Okay.
I use Spotify pretty exclusively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What's the hardest part of Monday?
Getting up out of bed. Once I get up, I'm okay.
Is it your day off, or do you?
I work on Monday. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. I try to take Friday, Saturday off, pair them together.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
What is the most pastor thing that you do that still feels weird?
The most still feels weird. Probably in some weird way, I guess funerals. They've always been awkward to me.
Yeah.
And I've really had to try hard to learn how to do a funeral and make it meaningful. Because you can get lost in all the emotions.
Oh,
and,
sure.
And trying to really minister in the moment when people are hurting.
Do you ever struggle with someone who you're pretty convinced was not a believer, and you're
Yeah.
that seems like a tightrope to me.
I used to work at a funeral home.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I preached for a funeral home, and particularly when they didn't have ministers, they would call me.
Right.
And I did that in Arkansas, and then I did that here in Dallas. There's a ministry in Dallas called Minister Find, and I worked with them for a while, and they would send me all over the place. In Arkansas, it was just with one particular funeral home, but in Dallas, I would go everywhere for a while.
Yeah.
And we had all kinds of experiences.
I bet you did.
I remember one, Chris, where we were doing a funeral and the family was like putting small bottles of vodka and alcohol in this man's hand and cigarettes in the guy's shirt.
Yep.
And just, marijuana here and there, just scattered
Really?
all over the casket, And I was thinking to myself, man, this is a very strange funeral.
How Egyptian is that?
Right? Yeah.
You got any servants you want to put with him?
Right. So, and not to make light of that, but I just asked the Lord, help me say something that's going to communicate to this family about your love and grace and about redemption. And I almost always go to Solomon's words that it's better to go to a funeral than a party. And, I always start off with the reality that, hey, like you, I'd rather be at a birthday party. But here we are. And here's what Solomon said, and here's why he said it.
Is that the place is that attached to the spot where it says that the death of the saints, that the Lord?
I think that was David in the Psalms.
Okay,
the precious is the sight.
That's
precious,
it. The precious
precious is the death of the saints in the sight of the Lord.
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
That's
but
in Psalms.
That was in the Psalms.
That's
okay,
in the Psalms,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, boy, if I can put it in the wrong spot, you know
That's
who to
okay.
come to. I'm there for you.
I actually thought about that last night when we were talking about something, and you were talking about, I don't know what we were talking about last night in the podcast, but you mentioned something. I thought about that passage about, the suffering. We were talking about suffering, and we were talking about, how can there be evil in the world? And that passage went through my mind about how, the Lord sees our suffering, and He sees our, the death as a precious thing because our transition is final. I think you were talking about your mom, and when she was suffering, and you were there was a release there, that the suffering was over.
Yep.
And I thought about that passage, how our death can be precious in the sight of the Lord because we're going home and we're going into His presence and we're being welcomed into His arms.
And we're finally fixed.
Fixed. Right.
It's like the parent who has set down a discipline for the child. Mm-hmm. And when the discipline is over, the first thing that parent wants to do is to embrace the child and say, I know that was unpleasant, but it had to be, and now the punishment's over, and you're back in the family. I mean, you're never not part of the family, but we're going to forget about that, and we're going to go play baseball or, have a hot dog or, cotton candy or something. We're going to go to do something fun. Yeah. What's a food you'll never turn down?
Food I'll never turn down. My wife's enchiladas.
Ooh. Call or text?
There again, I probably prefer
X.
to. I probably prefer to call, especially if you got something important to say.
Yeah. That's yeah. I think that's exactly our generation. Like text if you can, but if not, please pick up the phone and don't wear my
Right.
fingers out.
I think I kind of live life by a 3 text rule. If I got to text you more than 3 times, I'm going to pick up the phone and call you.
That's pretty good. I like that. I may borrow that one. Yeah, because my kids are like, I'm not picking up the phone. Dad, will you call? And I'm like, no, you're going to learn how. You've got to be able to talk to people. What's the last show that you actually binged?
Oh, binged. It was a show on Apple TV. What was the name of that show? We caught it a few weeks ago. My sons and I just binged on it. It was about a 10-episode show. I can look it up. Crazy, man. That's crazy. Homestead off of have you seen the Homestead movie?
I don't know that I have.
Okay, so Homestead is it's a series. It's a movie, and then it turned into a series.
Okay.
And we binged that pretty hard. Yeah.
Is it like a Western? Like
No, it's an apocalyptic type movie
Ooh.
where the end of the world's about to happen, and a family in Colorado kind of has this property where they have been prepping. It's about a prepper family.
Oh,
It turns into a
interesting.
prepper community, and how this natural disaster catastrophe happens in California, and it changes the whole world. And
Yeah.
the grid goes down, the world goes crazy.
Yeah.
And they've got to fortify and protect themselves, and it's about their struggles.
I
and how,
may need to what venue do you know? I'm gonna have to find
I'll
that
talk
one.
to you about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's a small thing that instantly stresses you out?
A small thing that instantly stresses me out. Which one to pick? No, I think when my children, when I ask my children to do something and they argue back at me, that kind of,
Yeah.
you know, I tell them all the time, you don't have to understand the why, you just have to understand what Dad said.
Yep. There was a in fact, I put this on my Facebook page as the what I don't know what you call it, the banner. This quote so affected me. Jeremy Eden is the pastor at North Ingleside in North Bay Fellowship in Ingleside, Texas, way down south by Corpus Christi. And during the interview, he said, if you want to be convinced that God exists, then obey Him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the obedience that you'll prove that God exists.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good.
It's the same idea.
Yeah.
You don't have to believe me, or you don't have to trust me. You just have to do what I'm asking you to do. And then it's Moses standing there in the front of the burning bush, and God puts the 40-year plan in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, and here's the sign that I'll be with you. When you're done, you'll come back to this mountain and worship me.
Right.
In other words, you won't know for 40 years that this was really me and this was really you and we really had this conversation, but in 40 years, you'll know.
Right.
You'll know beyond any shadow of a doubt because you're going to come back right here and worship me. That's not the way that my mind works.
Right. It's like the disciples wanting a sign, and Jesus said, "You'll know the sign when you see me in the clouds."
Yeah, right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so backwards to our imaginations. We're like, wow, what? Yeah. Okay. What's the best way to waste an hour other than listening to this podcast?
The best way to waste an hour, probably mow the yard because it grows back in a week.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Huh. Take that, Mom and Dad. It was a waste. I think that's good. Okay. So this last question, is not from me. It is through me from the previous pastor. Take a question, leave a question. So I'm going to ask you to sign my book and leave a question for the next guy, if you don't mind. What is one of the most awkwardly hilarious moments in your time in the ministry?
Okay. There was a moment early on in my ministry, preaching ministry. It was at my first full-time church in Coshada, Louisiana. And
Coshada?
Coshada, yeah.
Are you serious?
You know Coshada? Not
Yeah,
many
we're
people-
in Martin all the time.
Are you really?
Yeah, once a year.
Once a year.
Yeah.
Over at
Martin Baptist.
Yeah, Martin Baptist. Yeah. So I was at
Richard
Fairview.
Kaufman
I was
is
at-
the
yeah,
pastor
Richard
there.
Kaufman.
Yeah.
I know Richard very well.
We do too.
Yeah, so
he's been on the podcast.
Has he?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So through the woods at Fairview Baptist Church in Fairview Alpha, but nobody knows where Fairview
Right.
Alpha
Yeah,
is.
yeah. That's what he says about Martin too.
Yeah, so I say Coshada, nobody knows where Coshada's at because I say south of Shreveport, but
What a
it was
small
really
world.
it was really Fairview Alpha. But I was pastoring there at Fairview, and first full time church, probably 6 months into the ministry, and the whole sermon, people were laughing and like snickering and pointing, and I couldn't figure out why. And it wasn't until during the invitation that I looked down and my microphone was dangling between my legs.
Oh, how funny. Oh my gosh.
So I preached the whole sermon with that microphone dangling between my legs, and everybody was laughing at me, and I couldn't figure out why.
So the head of it or the
the
battery
transmitter,
pack? Yeah, the transmitter,
the battery
right.
pack.
That
Yeah,
should be on your waist.
yeah, it was dangling between my
That's
legs.
hilarious. Yeah, they didn't hear a word you said.
No, they
that
didn't
day.
hear a word I said. No, not at all. And I go back once in a while. We went back for a reunion, and so a couple of the deacons brought that up. Remember when you had that?
That's awesome.
Dangling between your legs.
Yeah, I had a. It's always funny to me to remember. John Cramp was my youth minister, and he wrote the song "Touch of the Master's Hand" that Wayne Watson did. Okay, so he wrote that, and that was his one claim to fame. He went on to be a vice president in Lifeway in Nashville. I haven't seen him in a long time, but he said, "You guys will never remember anything that I've taught you, but you'll remember the interactions." I always thought it was funny that I remember what he had taught me in that little one sentence. But
right.
he was basically right. You know, there's a lot of stuff that he said that we forget.
Right.
But the actions, those live on, even if they're funny.
Right.
So, hey, Stephen, would you do me a favor?
Yep.
And close us in a word of prayer, and we're going to call this one a day.
Okay, sure. Let's do it. Lord, I thank you for this day. I thank you for Chris and the McNeil family. Lord, I pray that you would bless them, encourage them, and Lord, open up many opportunities for them to see the gospel go forth and change lives. I pray, God, that you would just use this podcast in whatever way necessary to help someone and to reach someone and to encourage someone today to lift their eyes and see you, and to open their ears and hear you, and to, Lord, put their hands to the plow and work for you. So give us eyes to see and ears to hear and hands that would obey, and may we honor and glorify you. Amen.
Amen. Stephen McAbee.
Good, brother.
Thank you so
Yep,
much for
Chris,
being part of Ministry
thank you,
on
brother.
the Move.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Ministry on the Move. I've been your host, Chris McNeil. To learn more about Ministry on the Move, check us out on Facebook now at Ministry on the Move. Or if to find out more about the McNeils, McNeilmusic.com. You can find us on YouTube. Email me at chris@mcneilmusic.com. Thanks so much for listening. Share, like, subscribe. You know the drill. God bless you. We'll see you next time. Someone recently stole my mood ring. I don't know how I feel about that.